Hi, my name is Lorena and welcome to my channel. Today I will be cooking gotcha pork roast for you. It's a recipe from an anime I really like. Yes, I'm a big old nerd, but this recipe is delicious and my kids love it. So gotcha pork roast has mushrooms, onions, thick cut bacon, and potatoes, as well as some rosemary, and then the sauce includes some wine and soy sauce. So to get started, we are going to deal with the cutting of the ingredients. And for the amount I'm going to make today, the recipe does call for 6 white potatoes, but instead I'm going to do 10 and put the amount up a little bit. Just because it tastes good for lunches and whatnot the next day if you have leftovers. Now for the potatoes, I did cut them in 3/4 inch chunks, just to facilitate the cooking process. Just gonna put them in my pot with the other potatoes I already pre-cut. And I covered them just above the potatoes with water and added some salt. And I'm going to get those cooking while I continue cutting up the rest of the ingredients. Just going to put the peels in my bucket here. Now I'm using 2 different kinds of mushrooms. I'm using cremini, which gives a slightly nuttier flavor to the pork roast, or gotcha pork roast, sorry. And I'm also using just white mushrooms. I'm gonna pop the stem out. I will cut the stems up and use them as well. There's no point in wasting them. Okay, give the bottoms a little trim of the stems, and because they shrink so much, I did cut them in not too small of pieces. This is the size I am using. And then I do cut the cap in half. Okay, do that with both mushrooms. And then I'm also going to dice up my onion. It's going to be in small pieces, roughly around that size, nothing too big because it's going to go in the potatoes once they're cooked. And then from here, I'm going to caramelize the onions and mushrooms in a pan with a bit of salt and pepper, nothing too overpowering because we are going to be making a really nice sauce to go on top, and it's going to be wrapped in bacon, which will add more salt content into it. So we don't want to over season anything to start with because you can't take salt back once you put it in. So. Alright. So now I have cooked the potatoes to fork tender. I'm not going to put any butter or milk in this because we are going to be putting our caramelized onions and mushroom in it. We're not going to make this completely mashed up. We want some chunks in there so that it doesn't get mushy or fall apart when we get to the step of rolling it up into our pork roast. Alright. Alrighty. Just going to move that to the side for the moment. Now, I forgot to mention, I used approximately 2.5 cups of onion and 3 cups of mushrooms, and this is what it cooked down to. The pan was a third full when I started, or approximately a third full, and it just shrunk down to this much. We are going to be mixing this in with the potatoes, and I added approximately half a teaspoon of kosher salt and pepper, mixed in it while it was cooking and caramelizing. I'm not gonna lie, I love the smell of caramelized onions. It just smells so good. And we all like mushrooms in this household too, so. Okay, here we go. And I did caramelize the onions and mushrooms in some margarine, as opposed to olive oil. For some reason, margarine gives a different flavor base. As much as some people don't like it, that's what I like to use. Alright. Alrighty. And the reason we are not putting butter or milk or anything in here is because it's going to absorb juices from the bacon while it cooks, and then from the sauce once it's all put together at the end. Oh. Now we're going to let this cool for about 10 minutes or so to release most of the heat, because we are going to have to roll this into a loaf shape and in saran wrap. So you don't want it too hot because you will end up burning yourself, or at least feeling some discomfort. So we'll just let that cool for a bit and then we'll move to our next step. Alright, so now for our next step, I've pulled out a long sheet of saran wrap or cling wrap, or whatever. Our potato, mushroom, onion combination has cooled down enough so that we can put it on here and begin to form our roast. Part's a little weird all the time, depending on how much you're doing, so just keep in mind that there's going to be still probably some hot bits of potato in there, and it's a little bit awkward, but once we get it shaped up, then we should be good. Alright, I'm going to just fold this over. Oh. And seal up my edges so I can start shaping it. I guess I didn't let it cool off quite enough because it's still a little bit warm, but it is what it is. And my son wants this to eat it. slice that end off. I'm gonna give it one more wrap up so that we don't have potato leaking out the sides while we shape it. I'm gonna do it the opposite direction so that it gives me some more. There we go. Oh, that's gonna be awesome. Alrighty. Now, this is my loaf. I'm going to press and shape it so it's more of a loaf shape. You don't want it all loose so that it falls apart when you take it out, because we do want to wrap this in bacon. So we don't want it to fall apart. There we go. Beautiful. So we're going to take this. We are going to put it in the fridge for about 10 to 20 minutes, just so it's all the way cool. But at this point, it is fairly cool, so it shouldn't take too long. We just want it to cool off some more in this shape so that it stays together a little bit better. But yeah. So, let's put it in the fridge and go from there. Alright, so now for the next step. The potato loaf has stopped cooling, and now we need to cut some twine. We are going to be wrapping this around the loaf once we wrap it up with the bacon, just to keep it shaped. So I'm just gonna cut a nice long string a couple of different times. It's better to have too much than not enough. Cut right there. I usually tie 3 strings around this. 2 short, the short way, and then 1 across. Now, I did try to do a basket weave previously with the thicker bacon, but it does not cook all the way through, and that was a very bad idea. So, I'm going to start with this. It's going to hang over the edge of the pan, but I'm going to offset the slices so that it's long enough to go all the way around. Don't overlap it too much because it is thick cut bacon and it will cook slower, and you don't want to be eating raw bits of bacon slices. That's never a good idea. But once it starts shrinking, you want to make sure there's enough so that once it shrinks that you don't end up with big bare spots. I'm going to unwrap it, place it on the bacon, and then wrap it with bacon. Hey, out of here, pupper lover.